give me one shot here on a blue chip stock, believe me, Kevin, the only problem you're gonna have is that you didn't buy more.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles.
What's going on, NBA draft fans? Your boys are back. The Wolves of Ball Street, your favorite draft analyst, the Draft Deck NBA Draft Podcast. My name is Corey Tullivan, and I am here, as always, with my co-host, Albert Garbage Time Gim. Albert, what's good, dude?
What is going on, everybody? It's an interesting, fun time. Football season's back. Baseball's in full swing. But for us, we are getting that much closer to draft season. So it feels fantastic to be back on today. Took a little break last week, actually, but really excited to talk about the player that we have today.
Yeah, this is going to be a really, really fun episode about a player that, I think, as we'll get into in a few minutes, is being a little underrated in the draft process, which, as you mentioned, is going to be heating up very, very soon. And we're all very excited about that at No Ceilings. We are covering today Jarace Walker from IMG Academy. He is headed to Houston to play for the Cougars. He's a forward. He just turned 19 years old. He is listed at 6'8", 235 pounds, with a reported 7'2" wingspan. His senior year at IMG, he averaged 16.7 points per game, 8.2 rebounds, 4 assists, was injured most of his junior year, has a national title under his belt with IMG Academy. So winner, good high school career. Preseason stock price, ESPN has Walker at 16. Our friends at SB Nation has him at 9. Bleacher Report has him at 10. The Athletic has him at 33. Tankathon has him at 16. Average stock price of 16.8. So, Albert, as always, I ask you, based on the film you watched, heading into the 2023 NBA draft cycle, is Jarace Walker stock price too high, too low, or is it just right?
At 16, it's going to be way, 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 way too low. I'm going to go ahead and say it here. I have Jarace Walker in my top 5 at my current big board. So 16 is going to be way too low for me. Once again, for our listeners out there, I actually don't know what Corey's about to say because we have not talked about Jarace Walker before recording because we want all things to be authentic and rich and fun and exciting on our pod. But that's where Jarace Walker is for me. I think he's unbelievably gifted at so many different facets of the game, and I have him in my top 5 currently.
IMG was my favorite high school team to watch during this preseason scouting cycle. Our last episode, I believe, was that the Keontae episode that we did?
It was.
I believe it was with our friend Laro. I think I said that I had Keontae at number 3 on my board on that episode. I got to move Keontae down a little bit because I have Jarace Walker at number 3 on my big board. I fucking love this kid. I love watching him. I loved his game. And watching some of his films, just like, why is nobody talking about him in the same way that we're hearing like Cam Whitmore and Dariq Whitehead and Nick Smith? And I know it's preseason, so it's only, the sickos who are really getting into it right now. But like, look at this kid's measurables, look at his skill set, which we'll get into. And you're telling me that this isn't the modern NBA. This isn't what teams want. So I think it's way too low. He doesn't even have a lottery grade coming into the year based on, he does on most, he's borderline on most outlets, and there is some outlier, but man, I know that the No Ceilings team is going to, have a board out at some point. And I think that we're going to be higher than consensus with our preseason ranking as a collective as well. But I'm excited to get into Jarace Walker's game and all the reasons that I think we're so into what it is that he does on a basketball court. So I think we should just get into it, right? Let's get into the scout. Where do you want to start with Jarace Walker?
Damn. Man, we're gonna have so many nice things to say about him today. But you know what? Let's flip it. Let's switch it up. I like defense.
Oh,
let's talk about his defense.
Let's go.
Today.
Let's go. All right, let's talk about his defense. So talk to me about his defense. Let's start on the ball. What did you see on the ball that got you excited about Jarace Walker, or that you didn't like? You know, who knows?
I love him. I absolutely. So Corey, heading into this episode, one of the biggest things that I had in mind as I was watching him, I was like, Corey is a high school basketball coach. There is no way in hell that you were not going to love this kid. Like, I was just watching him and I was like, wow, I imagine every damn coach in the world who turns on his tape is going to absolutely fall in love with him. He's unbelievable. But defensively, where I want to start was I thought he was great laterally for his size. He's a gigantic human being. He can defend in space. His hands are absolutely electric. The way that he can poke the ball out, it's unbelievable. Guys will try to cross and do all the moves, combo moves, this, that, whatever, try to get by him, and he is not having any of it. I legitimately think, and considering the team that he played for, he was essentially their center, right? He's guarding bigs all the time, and he really, really held his own, Corey. Even against Oak Hill, against that I don't know how tall that kid was, but he looks gigantic. Walker was just going at him, put his chest into him all day, said, "You're not going to move me," was incredible with his hands. He is I thought he was such a good rebounder, really, really strong rebounder with great instincts, has the desire to go get it. The numbers back it up. I don't know, Corey. I feel like, as you mentioned before, kind of what you kind of gave us as a preview, in terms of the modern NBA and what you're looking for in terms of versatility as a defender, you talk about foot speed, hand speed, length, size, strength, instincts, rebounding. It's unbelievable. He's unbelievable. So I'll stop there and I'll let you go. But Corey, I absolutely loved him as a defender. And I think I might have loved him even more on the offensive side. So this is a great start to the pod.
Yeah. Another big that he matched up with was Khalil Ware, who's headed to Oregon, played with Nick Smith. And he held his own against Khalil Ware, who's a giant guy, and he's a potential lottery pick himself. I mean, just is able to body up, wall up, because he's stronger than, and look, these are high school kids, but like a guy like Khalil Ware is a guy you're projecting to be a starting, potentially high-level NBA center, and he's just like, you're not moving me. You know, like you can go into me, but you're not moving me because I'm stronger than you. So I love that. I love that he is going to be scheme versatile. I love that he's also able to guard 1 through 5, I think, pretty effectively. You know, yeah, he's going to be the guy that you want to sick on the big wings in the league eventually. Like, that's what he is made for. You want him to ultimately one day down the line be able to guard Luka and Kawhi and guys like that, right? But, you know, you're seeing it, and he's playing against the top level competition, right? And you're seeing him match up with a guy like Mark Mitchell, who's headed to Duke. Clamps, on the perimeter, stride for stride. He's switching onto guards. He was able to, stick on guys like Nick Smith on an island. So the fact that I think, is going to be legitimately able to switch 1 through 5 on the ball is something that really matters when you're projecting these guys as draft prospects, because as we see every year, like, the NBA wants guys who are able to do that. And I think that sometimes we overthink certain prospects, and maybe because his shot is a little unorthodox, which we'll get to later, people are overthinking him in this pre-draft cycle before he gets to college. But I think that ultimately he's going to be effective enough as a defender that we're going to be able to actually properly rank what he could do. But when I bring up the scheme versatility, I watched him play. You mentioned he played big. I watched him play as the center in drop coverage, where he's so agile on his feet and such an effective rim protector that he's able to play the cat and mouse, where he could play and drop, contest for a pull up, but then drop back, get back to, the big and contest at the rim. I mean, he's able to go meet you at the level of the screen to stop the guard from coming off. He hard hedges. And then, you mentioned his hands, like he also has like this really impressive anticipation, where he'll just come over and it's like, boom, he takes the ball and he's gone. And that's not only like in the passing lanes, but like coming off of a screen. So he's a force. He's ferocious. He makes you feel his presence. He's not somebody that you're watching and going, is Jarace Walker on the court right now? He doesn't do that. And then I think the most fun part of his defense, the thing that is going to put him on highlight reels, is that he is an unbelievable rim protector.
Yeah.
And like he's a guy that you would expect, based on how many shots he blocks, how many shots he goes after, that he'd be like a foul prone machine, and he's not. He's just going up there and sending your shit into the third row. He's pinning it off the backboard. He's maybe taking it out of your hand. And again, he's not doing this against some, rinky dink, high school in the middle of nowhere. He's doing it against Montverde and Sunrise Christian and Prolific. He's doing it against real, legitimate, high-level schools that have high-level 5-star prospects on their teams. So, I mean, that, again, the blocks, I don't know. I'm just like, oh my God, man. Like, it comes out of nowhere. And here's the thing. He's going to Houston.
Right.
Now, Houston's defense, right, this is what they do. They try to send you left. They overload the help side. And they don't want to gamble for like steals. Like they're not a team that's a goal of theirs, is to turn people over a lot. They want to force you into tough shots.
Right.
So, you have to look at some of like the steal percentage, block percentage with a grain of salt. I still think he is going to excel in those categories that like draft Twitter loves to get hyped about, because the way he approaches defense and just his physical tools and his motor, like he's going to get these counting stats by accident, but he's also like, he'll also play just sound, solid team defense. And like, there are times where he's just getting vertical and using his length to change shots. Grady Dick got real intimidated when he went in and Jarace was standing there just straight up. He wasn't even trying to block his shot. He literally on one possession, just like the ball just went way out of bounds, like to the rim, where it almost looked like he threw it away because he was just scared, because he's an imposing force. So yeah, I don't know. Defensively, I'm just like, if I'm building a guy in a lab to play defense in the NBA one day, I'm making him have the skill set and the physical tools and the body of Jarace Walker.
100%, Corey. And you talk about the versatility about the guy, and you talk about the rim protection. The thing that makes Jarace Walker so special to me is that he has both ends of the spectrum, where, as you mentioned, he is an absolute force at the rim, but also on the ball against guards. He will get so damn low and move so well laterally and be so active with his hands, with the anticipation, with all that stuff. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And he has the full gamut as a defender, everything that you're looking for in a modern wing defender, big switchable, blah, blah, blah. He has literally, I think, everything that you want. As we said before, there are guys that are kind of built in labs for the modern NBA, and he's one of those guys. And we're just talking about the defense right now. He does literally everything. And I just, in the same way that you are so impressed with his verticality and him protecting the rim, in the opposite way, I was so impressed with how he could defend in space. He looked so comfortable. He looked not only did he look so comfortable, but it's hard for guys that big to look that competent when it comes to defending in space and defending smaller guards. He did an unbelievable job against guys like Hood Schifino or Dariq Whitehead or whatever. It didn't matter. He was ready for it all, and he was so good at staying in front of them. And as you always talk about with guys like Davion, using your chest, being lateral, quick laterally, anticipatory laterally. I thought Walker had all that stuff. And then you mentioned the stuff that he's doing as a big, guarding bigs and protecting at the rim. It's truly special. It's truly special. And I don't think you and I are being hyperbolic about our evaluations of him right now by putting him in our top fives. He is legitimately that good. And I'm so shocked. And I think we're going to just, once the college basketball season starts, Corey, I think everything we're saying right now is just going to get justified. And I just can't wait.
Yeah. And look, this is the preseason. If you were rocking with us last preseason cycle and we were doing some of these early pods, right? We were talking up Jaden Hardy hardcore. We were in love with Jaden Hardy, right? But I don't know. To me, this feels different because the things that Jaden Hardy struggled with, it's like he needed to excel at. Like his thing that we thought was going to be so solid and was going to be above average from day one was his shot, and that stuff wasn't falling. I don't see how all of the things that he brings to the table that don't involve putting the ball in the basket don't translate. And that's kind of the appeal. The offense, the scoring, which we'll get to in a few minutes, that's bonus stuff. This dude is just going to be a guy that you want to rely on for 36, 37 minutes a game, 40 minutes in a playoff game one day. That's what I envision. Now, you touched on his rebounding. And I think this is a good segue kind of to work our way into offense a little bit, because the defensive possession ends with a rebound and he gobbles up rebounds. And then a lot of times it starts with him after getting a rebound, and he's either grabbing and going and what I love,
say it.
He's got the Kevin Love hit aheads, at least once a game. As soon as he gets a rebound, his eyes are up and he's flinging full court dimes on the money. Two guys that are running the floor. And if you bust your ass and you get down the floor, he's going to reward that, And there was one possession. I forgot who they were playing. It might've been Lalamir. He had a left-handed, 3/4 court dime, on the money, left-handed. So it's both hands. It's just a lot of fun. And then he has, what makes it special is when he gets the board outside of just the hit heads, he'll grab and go coast to coast, and he could finish. Either he could finish with authority, he could finish with touch on a little floater, or you have to play him for these things. He's a freight train going downhill and he'll drop it off. He's got the passing ability to make really natural playmaking reads. And he's unselfish. He is going to find you. He averaged 4 assists a game, at this, hybrid center spot that he played in high school. That's a big number for a guy who is a center, at the high school level. Especially you got to take into account these high school games were, 32 minutes, 4 8-minute quarter. So it's not like we're extrapolating this to 48-minute NBA games. The game length is much lower. So, he's just a lot of fun in transition because he's a threat with the ball in his hands. He's a threat running the floor without the ball in his hands. He makes plays. He can finish himself. He's just a lot of fun.
No, he's insane. Corey, he's absolutely insane. You mentioned that game that you mentioned, Lamia or whatever, the Oak Hill game towards the end of the season. He grabs a rebound, great rebound. Once again, great nose for the ball, great anticipation, reads the ball off the rim so well. Anyway, grabs a rebound, great box out too on this rebound, brings it up on the right side of the court. He's a couple steps before half court, throws an absolute dime of a diagonal ball to the weak side corner to Keontae George. Remember, this is before half court, throws it literally perfect into his pocket. George misses the shot, but the pass was absolutely gorgeous. And I had to clip it when I was watching it. And he is everything that you just mentioned, Corey. It's the willingness to push, the willingness to pass, the willingness to, get things moving, the willingness to grab and go. It's unbelievable. And later when we get into our comps, I can't wait to hear who you have, because I've got some names here, and it's just, if you're an NBA player and you just happen to turn on college basketball this year and you happen to catch Houston and watch Jarace Walker, I can't imagine any NBA guy watching this kid being like, oh, he's not going to be good in the league. He's going to be not only I think is he going to be great in the league, but people are going to have so much fun playing with him because of the things that you just mentioned, the way that he plays and the way that he pushes and the willingness that he has to not just get his own, but the passing with him is unbelievable. There's this one play, I guess we're kind of transitioning to offense now, but there's one where he caught it on the left block and he just spun and threw an absolute rocket
I know
to
which
the
one. Weak side corner. Yep.
Corey, that was disgusting, dude. And it was like, and it was so nasty because it was so fast. And that's when that's the type of stuff, Corey, that I think it means a lot when you talk about like processing, right? Like he knew where his teammate was and he did not waste any time. He just spun and threw an absolute rocket to the weak side corner. It was beautiful, absolute beautiful stuff. And I think Walker, I guess now we're going to talk about offense. The passing is a great place to start. And we talked about the transition stuff. The half court stuff is incredible too.
Yeah.
The handoff stuff is incredible. The screens that he sets are incredible. Let me stop there and let you go, but he is so freaking fun as a passer.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone 21 minutes so far, and we haven't said anything slightly negative about him. So I will give him a critique for his passing before I then compliment his passing. And I'm going to turn the negative into a positive.
Perfect.
Sometimes he gets a little, he was allowed to experiment. He had a freedom. He was allowed to explore the parameters of his game, right? So sometimes with his playmaking, a lot of times in transition, we talked about like those hit aheads, he would like try to thread the needle, like with a bounce pass, like between guys, that it would get picked off. So with his passing, I do think there's room for growth just in sometimes like knowing when to actually go for the home run and when to just kind of make the right decision, which more often than not, he does. But I think if there's any, room to be like, hey, maybe this is an area where he needs to improve, it's just like reining himself in a little bit, which I think he's going to do in college because, in college, these games matter a lot more than the high school stuff, and every possession, he's gonna be held accountable a little bit more than he is in high school because he's on the court with other guys that are, NBA bound, and obviously he was an IMG as well. But you mentioned the DHO stuff, and that's really exciting because he is a guy that you're going to expect to kind of be the screener and the initiator,
right?
And that versatility, that two-man game that he's going to be able to play with whoever he's on the court with is really exciting. And him operating as like that DHO fulcrum, hopefully one day with, a shooter like, a JJ Redick, a Duncan Robinson, a Jamal Murray, like who's coming off and is just such a threat that it allows him to roll to the rim where he's just going to like ferociously, put one on somebody's head. And what I like about him going to Houston is that I think that Marcus Sasser plays a lot like Keontae George. And I think he's going to develop a really interesting chemistry there. And I think like the DHO stuff is with those two is going to be really fun. I think the pick and roll stuff is going to be really hard to guard because I can't wait. And college isn't exactly the best place to, see like the short roll stuff all the time because there's a lot of zones and whatnot. And the spacing's not always the best, but like picturing him long-term in the NBA, like as a short roll decision maker where he is going to either like attack you. And again, like, he could finish with like, he's got the Euros, he's got like the footwork, like the step throughs, the pivots. And then also like, he's going to make the right read. You talked about like that pass that he had on the block out of the post where he just knew where the players on his team were like going to end up and he could process that. And that's what NBA teams are going to be looking for. And the fact that he's going to be able to make these decisions naturally, because that's what it is. It's not trying to force the issue. Like he is a guy that you could just look at and be like, he just knows, like whether he put it in with reps, the chemistry, he watched film, like whatever the case is, like he just knows how and where his teammates are. So in the pick and roll, it's really exciting. And then he can operate as the pick and roll initiator, know? And I do think as the initiator, he's going to have things that he needs to prove. Right. And, and I don't envision him being like a full-time initiator, you know what I mean? Like, especially definitely not in college and not even in the NBA. I think it's going to be like a part-time thing that he's given the freedom because he could do it, but he's not going to be running your offense like a Jokic, like a LeBron. It's just something that is an added benefit to his game. But like him as a pick and roll operator, like he's going to be able to come off a screen and get downhill. He is going to be able to come off a screen, and then he's really comfortable, I think, in the mid-range. And this is why I actually am really excited about him, because I think we talk a lot about like 3-level scoring, and I actually think he has the potential to get there to be a 3-level scorer. Maybe not like an all NBA caliber, like Bradley Beal, type 3-level scorer, like a one of those guys. But I think when you're comfortable in the mid-range and you look fluid and you have good touch, you already have that. You have the at the rim stuff, and then there are flashes of the stuff behind the line. That's easier to work out and become a threat at the 3-point line than it is if like you're only threes and layups and you have to figure out the mid-range stuff. Because for me, I don't know. I think it's hard for guys to kind of figure out cadence and like when to pull and when to keep going and that in-between game. And so much of it is no mid-range. But when it's a strength already, I think you're going to be allowed, because you already have the rhythm of how to get into this stuff. And I think he has that. Now, as a pull-up shooter off, in the mid-range, it's a work in progress. Coming off a screen, but it looks fluid. He has no problem getting into the shot. There's some things to clean up. But in the mid-range where he has no problems, he's got a turnaround bag already that's like a turnaround fadeaway bag that's like crazy. And it's just such good touch. It's so light. It drops in. It's super smooth. Really excited about that. But back to the pick and rolls. If he's going to be a pick and roll operator, ball handler, initiator, he's going to have to prove that he can pay, make guys pay when they go under ball screens, and that's a question with the shot that, we'll get into, but he's going to have to make guys pay.
I think, Corey, something that you said before, you said he could potentially be a pick and roll decision maker. I think he might be, and I might be way too high, and this might be me getting silly, but I think he might be a pick and roll destroyer one day. I think he's going to be unbelievable in the short roll. Like it's just special stuff that he can do right now and that he can see. And I'm with you. The shooting touch. So Corey, when I first started watching him, I saw him take a jump shot from the mid range, and I was like, I don't like this. What is this? Right? I was like, why does this look strange? Right? I thought I thought it looked a little unorthodox, and I was like, I don't like this. That was my initial gut reaction. The more I watched him shoot, the more the ball kept going in. I kept asking myself, why do you not like this? It's going in almost every damn time. The touch on his shot is unbelievable. His touch around the rim is fantastic. Watch him shoot free throws. Corey, that's a big litmus test for you and I when we talk about guys who we believe are going to be good shooters or not. Watch him at the free throw line. He is incredibly consistent at the free throw line. Great touch. Watch how the ball goes in at the free throw line. It looks great. I think
he was like 74%, which is pretty good.
I'm very happy with 74% for a guy who his marquee skill is not going to be shooting, right? His marquee skill is going to be everything else. And if he can be at that level of a shooter, we're talking about a really, really special player. His stuff in the mid-range is unbelievable, Corey. There are a couple times you mentioned, right? There needs to be some cleaning up, but then also there are some really high moments with him in the mid-range. There was once a sideline out of bounds play. They just throw him the ball. Pound dribble, crossover, pull up, bang. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful
efficient
stuff. He is so efficient. He catches on the block, spin, fadeaway. Why is he so good at shooting fadeaways? I don't get it. It's
I have a theory.
It's crazy. And his touch is unbelievable from the mid-range. The three-point shot, too, like it's not there yet. But the way that he could shoot it from the mid-range of the free throw line, I have every reason to believe he's only going to get better as a shooter. His handle, Corey, I think is very functional. Nothing fancy about it, but
I think it's fancy.
Okay, cool.
I think it's fancy. He had some moments where that shit's on a string, and he's got in and out. I think he's got nasty shiftiness to his game. So, at the high school level, there are times where he can get a little loose with it.
Okay.
Like in traffic specifically, but that's high school. Like he's going to tighten that shit up. I think my guy is shifty, like legit shifty. Like I asked in the chat, what prospect is the shiftiest in the class?
You think it's
right? He's up there for me. I think my guy's shifty. Like he might not be hitting you with like Iverson hang dribbles, but you watch that thing. He's got between the legs. He's got behind the back, and that's going back to like the pick and roll operator stuff. It's why he's so effortlessly like able to handle blitzes and shit, because he's able to like improvise on the fly with, you know, like behind the backs and, you know, like retreat dribbles, and I think his handle is fantastic for a guy his size, for what he, you know, accomplishes with the ball. Like as a passer, he's able to go use that shiftiness and hit you with like little live dribble passes with either hands. Like
For sure.
I'm in on the handle. I'm in on it.
I'm definitely not out on the handle. What
Yeah,
I
no.
meant by functional was I think what it is, Corey, is I'm not going to argue with you. I think you're right. He has very good handle. But I think the reason why I said what I said about him, the way that I described his handle, is that I think in those moments where teams tried to blitz him, tried to put pressure on the ball to test him, it felt very refined, is what I was trying to get at. Where
he plays with a poise.
Correct. A poise. He was not hurried. He was not panicking, and he was able to keep his dribble. A lot of guys, Corey, we watch a lot of high school tape right now. A lot of these guys whose handle is a little not stable, not completely stable and not completely there, when they get blitzed, they get doubled, they get, you know, a smaller guy kind of tighten on them, they'll pick the ball up. You know, they'll panic, they'll pick the ball up, and they'll look for an outlet. But Walker's not like that at all. So I'm with you. I personally didn't see as much shiftiness as you did, but what I did want to say is I think he's a very refined handler of the ball, and he's a real for once again, for his size and for the role that he's going to play. It's unbelievable stuff. It's unbelievable stuff. So, yeah, I think once again we'll get more into detail with the shooting and stuff, but I have no fear, no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a threat. And something I've been saying a lot recently, Corey, is that whether it's offense or defense, the more you make the opposing team think about the things that you can do, the more of a threat that you are. Offensively, the more that you have to your bag and the more you can bring to that, the more the defense is going to think and worry, and the more pressure you put on them. On the opposite end, we talked about his versatility, right? Defensively, he does the same thing. He can do so many things well that he makes the offense think more and have to make more adjustments because of that. So Walker has it on both ends, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, and I know what you mean with the handle, because there are times where it's just like, it's efficient. It's very just like, I'm going to do this, make this little combo move, and then I'm going to get to my spot. Right. You know, like he's not trying to dribble the air out of the ball. You know, like when we were, you know, we talked about it in the No Ceilings group chat. Like I'm trying to watch Oak Hill and get a look at like Chris Livingston, and it's like I can't, because Judah Mintz is just dribbling the air out of the ball. And like he's shifty too, but like in the worst way, because he's not doing things efficiently. He's just trying to dribble to dribble, and then eventually he's hoping something occurs. Like Jarace is willing to move off of the ball if something doesn't happen with, you know, what he does, and he's able to improvise and shit too, but he's not forcing it. He's just letting it come to him. Right. So I agree with you there. And let's take a break, and then we'll talk about his shooting.
For sure.
Okay, we're back. We're going to talk about Jarace Walker's shooting and some of the other stuff, because we haven't even touched on like his first step burst and, you know, but the big thing with him, and this is the thing that I think people are going to want to dissect and break down, and why I think his ranking is where it is because you know, people are going to look at him and be like, he's not a high level, high volume 3-point shooter. I don't think he's a guy that I would personally like leave open all the time, because I think he's shown often enough that he is able to knock down shots. He's even shown the occasional like shot off the bounce. It's not even like he's just catching and shooting. Like he'll you know, do a little behind, you know, snatch back and put it in. But for me, where the shot inconsistencies come from, and this is mid-range all the way out to the 3-point line, is he's got a lean on his jumper. It's an upper body lean, right? And I think that, you know, I said I had a theory about his mid-range game. Yeah. It's why I think that his mid-range fadeaway, I think, feels so natural, because he's already naturally leaning. So he feels comfortable and balanced already doing that, is something that I actually kind of believe. but it's that lean that leads to some inconsistencies, and because I think his touch is pretty good,
Yeah.
but most guys who are shooting, right, they want to go up and down, they want to go take their momentum forward a little bit potentially, and he's kind of going backwards, and that's tough, especially as you get later in the game where you might miss short because you're tired and you don't have as much legs. So if you're going backwards, your momentum's not going to carry that ball forward enough. So to me, it comes back to there's a lean and it happens in the mid range, it happens in off threes, but if he could just straighten that out, and I don't think it's like something where he has to completely rebuild what he does with his shot, then I think that he's going to be like a guy. It wouldn't shock me if he was 33% next year, 34% from three. And one day it's not going to shock me if he's shooting 38%. I'm not saying he's going to be doing it on like 5, 6, 7 attempts a game, but he's going to be doing it enough that it opens up the other parts of his game. Because otherwise, like you said, the free throw shooting, like that's pretty consistent, and he knocks them down at a decent clip. Yeah, he missed a couple of big free throws against Montverde in a big game, but that's 2 free throws in a sample, right? He hit them at a pretty good clip. They look good. I think he's got good follow through. Talk about his touch. I think he's got good touch. It's soft. It's his misses. Very rarely are they like slapping off the backboard.
Right.
Maybe an air ball, here and there, but you can get that with Dariq Whitehead too, who's like a phenomenal shooter. So for me, it just comes from the lean. It's something he's got to work to eliminate, but I have no doubt that like NBA coaches are going to be able to identify this and they're going to work with him. And hopefully even, in Houston, he's had an entire offseason to try to, hopefully at least work this thing out. I don't know if that's something he's specifically focused on, if the coach is specifically focused on, but I think eventually if he wants to become this high level, potential all-star player that I personally think he has the potential to be, it won't hurt to kind of straighten that out and approach the shot a little bit more balanced.
Corey, I could not agree with you more. I have a clip here that I clipped when I was doing my tape watching of Jarace Walker. They're playing Oak Hill. It's fourth quarter. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it was in the fourth quarter. He comes off the screen, right? And he's got all the space. He's being guarded by their big, number 30. I can't remember his name. He's guarded by his big, gives him a ton of space. And Corey, like you're mentioning right now, right? When he's a guy that he's coming off the screen, he's got a ton of space, and he just picks the ball up and shoots it, but he's automatically leaning backwards. It's like he's rocking back to take the shot, right? So I'm with you, Corey. I definitely agree that is something he's going to have to work on, right? I think also something, Corey, I wanted to ask you that you're the best person to ask about this. Did you ever see anything in the gather with him? Was there ever anything that you saw? Because I thought at times, not all the time, but at times he could get a little inconsistent with where he was picking the ball up from and things like that. I don't know if it was like, not that, because once again, I don't think he was ever rushed either, but I do wonder if it was like, depending on the circumstance, sometimes that would change, but also that could be natural too. So anyway, I'm saying all this to kind of throw at you as a question. I agree with you obviously about the rocking back thing. Like I think it's his default setting where he kind of leans back a little bit onto his left foot, but did want to ask you with the gather stuff if you saw anything, or if that's just me, or if what I saw is actually normal and not something to critique at all.
I actually love how he gets into a shot.
Okay.
Like I think it's supernatural, and
Okay.
I think that when he's like in a combo, like with a 3 or more dribbles, like he's doing like the Hezi Jimbo a lot. Like he's got like the Hezi Jimbo type move,
Yeah.
and when you're using that as your gather, it's almost like you're keeping the defense guessing because they don't know if you're about to pull up or you're about to blow by. So I have no problems with that. I think sometimes, especially off ball, his shot prep, like he's not always shot ready. So sometimes like, if he's off ball, and I think you're going to want to see him be able to knock down like pick and pops.
Right.
That's going to make him dangerous because if you close out on it, he's gonna be able to attack you, get into space, make plays, finish at the rim, all the things that we talked about that he's really good at. He needs to focus a little bit more on just being ready to shoot and stepping in 1-2 and letting it fly instead of kind of like catching, holding, and then waiting to make a decision and then just kind of like, all right, I'm open, so I'll shoot it with no momentum. especially because he does have that lean back. I think it makes it really hard when he's not like shot ready. So that's kind of the area that I had more concerns. Him getting into the shot, any of the times that he's confidently putting it up, even on misses, like I have a miss like that I have clipped up because I'm writing a piece that'll be out on Friday at NoCeilingsNBA.com on Jarace Walker, and I don't know if I'm going to use that clip because I have like 100 clips, but there's like a clip where he makes like a really nice move, creating his own shot in the on the Under Armour circuit when he was playing for Team Thrill. And it's in the mid range and he gets to it. It's like so smooth. It looks so good. He just shoots the ball over the rim. Like that the end result wasn't what you wanted, but everything leading up to it looked really good, including the release. So I love how he gets into his shot with the ball in his hands. I'm more, and it's not a concern, but I think it's an area of improvement, him just being shot ready off the ball, because I think that he's going to get a lot of opportunities to operate as a screener and be a pick and pop threat. And if he's able to kind of get reps in to make that footwork and that have that confidence to just step into those shots, I think it's going to be really a really devastating weapon for him, just because of all the other things he could do and the versatility of his game. And so that's where I'm at with his shot.
Can I say, Corey, something that, so as I was watching him, the reason why I knew I was going to be in love with him is that I was constantly clipping things that he was doing on the court. It's like you just mentioned that you have like 100 clips. I'm the same. I constantly found myself clipping little things that he was doing on the court, and I was like, oh, okay, like I absolutely love this kid. Like
because he's doing it on both ends.
Exactly.
And it's not just like, oh, this is a guy who needs to score the ball to be effective. So yeah, he's got 35. So he's having like a game that you want to clip everything up. It's just like, oh, that was a really nice, screen roll and pass. That was a really nice dribble drive move. That was a nice Euro. Oh, that was a nice block on the other end. That was a nice rotation. That was a nice ISO one-on-one possession defense. It's just like, clip after clip, you're just like, you can find something to look at with him because he can do it all. And he's going to the perfect situation to grow his game and the versatility and the team that he's going to play with and the high level competition and the fact that they're going to, I think compete for a national title next year and he's going to get this. You can't really replicate this stuff. Like I'm trying to, like, in my head, I'm watching I was watching some overtime elite games this year. I'm just like, you cannot replicate what some of these college kids are about to get in this versus like what they're doing in the OTE. And I'm just like, everything he's doing athletically is a functional basketball move. And he has like the size and versatility and athleticism to have like the one area of his game that needs improvement to be his jumper. And that's something with the Thompson twins that I'm just like, I don't know if they have that same versatility to their game if their jumper is not falling. And yeah, they might be bouncier and like they might be able to glide in the air, but like, are they able to functionally do as many things athletically as Jarace Walker? I'm not sure. Maybe they are. I'm not 100% positive is what I'm saying. I just think that this kid he's the full package.
Yeah. And Corey, we talked about his offense, talked about his defense. The one thing that I really, really, really wanted to bring up was his intangibles. You mentioned won a national title. He won a national title in high school. You mentioned that he's going to be competing for a national title in college. I believe that. Watching the game where they lost to Monfort by 1, watching the fourth quarter of that game, he made winning play after winning play after winning play. It was unbelievable. I remember there was this one possession, I think they were down 3 end of the game. They really needed a bucket. Monfort was making a little run there. They were really pushing him. And IMG went a little bit cold. They needed a bucket from him. And he just went to the rack and hit this unbelievable layup where he picked up the foul too. And it was just like, this is great. And then the next possession makes a great play defensively. And I'm just like, this kid is unbelievable. He is, forget about all the skills that we're talking about. He's also a winner in the biggest moments, in the biggest games. They relied on him to make not only like do great things, but also make major decisions for them as well. And I was just like, this guy is the whole package: offense, defense, intangibles. What more could you want? And then you talk about like the body profile, gigantic shoulders, his hands are hanging by his ankles, unbelievable wingspan on this kid. He's gonna be I love him. I absolutely love him.
In that Montverde game, there was, I think it was at the end of the third quarter, Dariq Whitehead put up like a crazy contested 3-point shot. It ended up being an air ball. I think Dylan Mitchell came over and got the offensive rebound. There was like, the clock was expiring. There was like 2 seconds left, and it could have been like basically like, one of those alley-oop layups off an air ball. And he comes over and just swats it because he's like, I'm not giving up on this play. I don't care that the clock's winding down. He's going after offensive rebounds. Like he's just outworking people. And when you get that intersection of like the physical profile that you just mentioned, you get the fact that he has like all of this versatility to his game and all of these skills. He's skilled as fuck. And then you get that he's a worker and a workhorse. And it's like, he has the ingredients to be successful, because even if he doesn't become a guy who's going to be a 20-point per game scorer, he can do so many other things to impact the game on the floor that are going to lead to him being a high level NBA player, and I think, you look at guys that are, let's talk about it. Let's get into kind of like if you're buying stock in Jarace Walker, who may you have bought stock in previously?
Okay. I'm ready, Corey, for like what,
right.
8 months from now or whatever. I'm telling you, there are gonna be people on the internet saying Draymond Green this, Draymond Green that. I could see it coming a mile away. It's gonna happen, Corey. So we're better than that. We're gonna find better comps than that. And I wanted to go back to my roots. Whenever we did this in the past, I always brought in the 90s guys. And I found 3 90s guys that I think are perfect, because I think he's got shades of all three. The 3 guys that I have are Larry Johnson, Horace Grant, and Anthony Mason.
Yeah.
And the reason why I picked these 3 guys is because with Larry Johnson,
prospect chemistry.
There it is, right? Because like I think we may look at him as maybe like slightly undersized to play the 5 or whatever. And Larry Johnson was always looked at as a guy who's a little bit undersized, but freak athlete, had a great jump shot, can really shoot the ball. I put Horace Grant in there because Horace Grant was an unbelievable defender, a guy that the Bulls relied on time and time and again to just be the absolute rock of them, of those 90s teams defensively.
Magic too.
And the Magic too, right? When he went over there, and Shaq really relied on him a ton. And then Anthony Mason with his versatility, the grab and go stuff, the handle, the passing, the flair to his game. Also a little undersized, but extremely physical. And I'm not saying Jarace Walker is necessarily undersized, but I'm thinking like if you were taking those 90s guys and they played now, they'd play a lot like Jarace Walker, in my opinion. So those are the 3 guys that I thought of, and like combined, I think create who I believe Jarace Walker is going to be in the NBA, a guy who's going to be really versatile, who's going to be flashy enough, he's going to shoot it well enough, and also be an absolute pillar of your defense, as Horace Grant was for those Bulls and Magic team. So those are the 3 guys for me.
Yeah, and like Mace was a really modern player.
Oh yeah,
Larry Johnson, modern player. Like those are guys that you could definitely see like they would thrive in today's game. I think you mentioned Draymond Green, and he's definitely going to get comp to Draymond at times. I also think he's going to get comp to Scotty Barnes. He's going to get Scotty comps. Every team is going to be, first every team was looking for the next Draymond, and now everybody's going to be looking for the next Scotty Barnes. And I think that's going to be one that gets thrown around quite a bit, just because he can handle, he can pass, downhill threat, 1 through 5 defensively. But getting creative with it. He's like, and this is another prospect chemistry. He's like if you combined Patrick Williams and Isaiah Stewart into one player.
Yeah.
And I mean that in like the best way possible. Like, how about this? If Patrick Williams made you feel him on the court the way that Jarace Walker makes you feel him on the court, he actually might be the next Kawhi Leonard. But Jarace makes you feel him on the court. You look at him and you're like, big bruiser, right? Like he's physical. He's going to be able to bang and mix it up inside and deal with contact. But then also like like Patrick Williams, he's got this really smooth finesse game to him. So it's this blend of rim roaring power and smooth finesse that Jarace has. And I think that he's got the badass mentality that Isaiah Stewart has, where like, if Jarace Walker is on your team, nobody is going to fuck with you because this dude he's going to be about it. Right. So I think all of the guys we mentioned, big, physical, multi-skilled guys, and that's what I think of when I think of Jarace Walker.
Yeah, and Corey, really quickly, the beef stew one is it's unbelievable how much he looks like him too in terms of like his physical profile with the giant shoulders and the long arms. It just, when you see him from behind, he looks like the silhouette of his physique looks a lot like Isaiah Stewart as well. And you mentioned the mentality, the way that he plays, like the aggression, the fearlessness that he plays with. Patrick, it's funny. I actually thought of those two guys too, and I was kind of like, he kind of looks like them. But you're spot on, man. You're spot, and I love it. And with the guys that I mentioned too, like, it's just, there's so much to like about this kid, and I literally think we could sing his praises for another hour, and we can find more that we love about his game. But we'll stop here, I guess. But it's going to be really fun to watch him develop and to see him tap into more of these different skills and see how that evolves during his time in college. I'm really excited.
Before we get into America's favorite segment, actually worldwide. Before we get into that, because I'm writing about Jarace this Friday at NoCeilingsNBA.com. So if you're listening to this on Friday, head to NoCeilingsNBA.com, subscribe. It's free, and read my piece on Jarace Walker, which is going to have like a lot of film to kind of show examples of the things that we're talking about. But the title of the piece is Jarace Walker is Made of Lions. Okay, so when I was touring, this is in 2010, I went on a tour called the Bamboozle Roadshow, which was a festival. It was based off of a festival called the Bamboozle, which was held at Giant Stadium every year. And it got so big that like eventually like Lil Wayne was headlining the tournament, but it started out as like a punk rock festival basically. And they eventually made it a touring festival where it would go to, all across the country. And it was mostly made up of like punk, emo, pop rock bands. Like LMFAO was on it. Hanson was on it. And then it was like a bunch of punk bands. So it was weird. But Third Eye Blind was on it. And I love Third Eye Blind. Their first album, one of my all-time favorites. No skips on that. And I would try to watch them almost every night. And their lead singer, Steven Jenkins, gigantic. And he's eccentric is the best way to describe him. And every night on stage, he would do like the lead singer thing where he's walking around the stage. He's like, on guitar, it's blah, 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 give it up on bass for blah, blah, blah. And every night he'd get to his drummer and be like, this is our drummer, my brother. He is made of lions. And everyone would be like, what the fuck does made of lions mean? Like that, who would ever describe anybody like that? And I never understood what that meant until I watched Jarace Walker, because that motherfucker is made of lions.
That was art, Corey. That was poetry. That was beautiful. That is the perfect way for us to kind of bookend this pod, because we spent a lot of time praising him, and the way that you just described him as made of lions, and I can't wait to freaking read your piece on him, because Corey, he's really special. And once again, I really want to emphasize to our listeners out here, I think you and I are very fair as evaluators. I think when we don't like guys, we're not afraid to go against the grain and let people know when we don't like them. I was on TikTok and Twitter a lot this week, and there are tons of people who are still singing the praises of guys like Amen Thompson and All-Star Thompson. Or more importantly, I saw a lot about Amen, and I'm not there. And I think, Corey, you and I are very similar in that way. We can be very fair with prospects when we're not huge fans, right? With Jarace, I think I'm head over heels with the kid. He's unbelievable. I felt what I felt when I was watching Dale and Terry last year, and how much I loved Dale and Terry, and how much I loved Jalen Williams last year. You know, like it's unbelievable. He's amazing. And so, Corey, the way that you just put it is he is made of lions. I want to get that tatted on my face tomorrow and let the world know that Jarace Walker is made of lions. So that was amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's I'm glad that, this festival that I was on 12 years ago and this singular line that I heard every night finally paid off in a way that I could integrate it into my writing. That tour also, I mean, it was a disaster. It had all of these huge bands on it. It was booked horribly. The promotion was terrible. It was all bands that would like sell out the amphitheaters that we were like on their own if they like actually promoted their normal tours, but it like wasn't promoted. So it was like just a million bands that would normally sell out an amphitheater selling like 2,000 tickets instead. And it was that we ended up one time at a festival that like a country, like a community festival that was already happening because they didn't sell enough tickets to play at the main site. And it was like this platinum selling band playing 10 feet away from like a middle-aged guy with an acoustic guitar. It was an amazing tour that I feel like is a figment of my imagination and truly deserves like a Fire Festival type documentary. Nirvana's tour manager was the tour manager of the tour. He made fun of everybody for thinking they were punk rock. He's like, I had to fucking get Kurt Cobain to the stage every night, so it was really great, but not as great as Jarace Walker, who I'm more excited to watch Jarace Walker next year, I think, than like Scoot, than Victor. I'm intrigued to watch Victor next year. I love Scoot. I love watching him. We sung his praises as well. What he did in the G League, a professional league, we're talking about Jarace, who was doing this as a 17, 18-year-old against high school competition. Scoot was doing against professionals. So like, I can't wait to watch year 2 of Scoot, but I can't wait to watch Jarace Walker because he's so fun. He plays with a passion, a spirit that, I think if you're a fan of the game, you're really going to enjoy. And that Houston team is going to be a lot of fun with other NBA prospects. So
I think we're gonna have to find a way to go watch him live somehow. I haven't seen the schedule or anything, but I think that's gonna be one of my missions in life this fall and early spring is to figure out some way to be really close to the court to watch Jarace Walker play basketball. I think I have to write that down in my diary tonight. Not that I have a diary, but I'll start one.
Nate let me know that he's coming to Philly, so I'll be taking a trip to see him. Yeah, which I'm excited about.
Maybe I have to just fly to Houston. Maybe I'll do it.
Hey man, that could be a fun trip. All right, Albert, tell the people around the World Wide Web where they could find you on the internet.
You can find me at Alberto Gim is my handle. You can find me last week. I dropped a piece on Amari Bailey, another guy that I'm really high on. I know he's not as perfect as a prospect as perfect as a prospect as Jarace Walker, but a guy that I'm very intrigued by. A guy that I think is going to surprise people. I'm not so sure he's going to get the opportunity to at UCLA, but fingers crossed. I hope he does. But he's a very intriguing prospect that I think has a bright future ahead of him as an NBA player as well. So I wrote about that is where you can find me.
And you could find me at Corey Tulva on Twitter, the NBA Draft Dude on YouTube and TikTok. And we're going to have a lot of TikToks for the No Ceilings crew. Follow us at No Ceilings NBA. Subscribe to NoCeilingsNBA.com. It's free. Once the draft cycle hits, you're going to get stuff delivered to your inbox Monday through Friday every morning. And right now, you're still getting at least 2 to 3 pieces a week. Again, it's free. And make sure you rate, review, share the Draft Act NBA Draft podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you for rocking with us. Thank you for everybody in the YouTube chat. Shout out our guy Felix, who said he could finally catch one of these live.
Love
we
you, bro.
Appreciate you watching. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, you subscribe to the YouTube, you hit the thumbs up button, and we'll be back next week with another draft breakdown that we probably won't enjoy as much as we did with Jarace Walker. But until then, we out. Peace.
Peace.